Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. Today I got a very interesting one for you, and once again it's brought to you from Gary the Sheep. I feel like in the last month Gary the Sheep has made it in more videos than any other player, that's including Justin, Golden Fire, Golden Fighter, and the others. But this time it is not Gary the Sheep's team, it's the team that he fought that makes this very, very interesting, and for all the wrong reasons. So I've gotten some attacks from Gary before where he's hit some players and he's gone through multiple teams, which is not surprising. Gary's teams are pretty beefy. He's got some really good gear. He just messes around with the levels of his heroes. He was headquarters 29 for a very long time, over a year and a half, before he finally made the move to headquarters 30 and getting tier 10 troops, which is just absolutely wild. So when he sent me this, I wasn't really expecting much until I actually opened it up and realized why he sent me this. And right off the bat, you don't think anything crazy, 54 million, which is kind of shocking. 54 million power versus 51.7. You're like, wow, why was this such a bad loss for this team? And you look at the weapon shards and are the exclusive weapons on these heroes. I mean, you got a bunch of level 30s. Lucius is level 15, and it's just built really well. You think this team is just great. And then you get into the gear. And that's not all. 4 mythic data chips. That's right. Not 1, not 2, not just 3, but you have 4. And that's without a single mythic radar. And on top of it, you have a mythic armor piece that is on Skylar. I have no idea what this guy was doing here. But man, I can tell you right now, if this is what you're doing with your gear, please jump on Discord, jump into the comment section, ask questions, ask somebody, and they will tell you not to do data chips. It shouldn't be your second upgrade. It shouldn't be your third upgrade. It may not even be your fourth upgrade when you're talking about upgrades to Mythic. Heck, if you look at my team, I don't even have this Mythic data chip on any of my heroes yet. So let me go through everything else just so you can see how important gear is in the game. Everything else in here, if you look at the skills, pretty much maxed out. Like I was showing you, the exclusive weapons are nearly maxed out except for Lucius, who's level 15. But still, I mean, everything else is pretty much maxed out on these heroes. And then going to the army tab, look at the drone, a level 173 drone. That's a pretty big drone. But then after that, things get a little interesting. He does have a bunch of 5-star, even some 6-star skill chips. So that's not bad. Nothing is wrong with that there. He's doing fine there. Down below, though, he has 2 level 8 components, which is very interesting that he doesn't have more work done on the components. Because, I mean, even I have more work in my components, and my drone is only like level 162 or something like that. So he's farther ahead of me on the drone, but his components are behind. And I can tell you right now, the drone components are going to have more of an impact than your drone level. Because after a while, it just becomes so hard to level up your drone, and you're not getting much of a return on it. Where the update to the drone components, you're getting more bang for your buck with the drone components now. So I don't know what he was doing, if he wasn't selecting drone components out of the luxury choice chest. Maybe he was selecting drone parts. And if that's you, don't do that. Make sure you're selecting drone components out of the luxury choice chest. If you're not sure what those are the chests that you can choose either drone parts, hero shards, some drone component, or a drone component. And you always want to select the drone components out of there. All right, after that, scrolling on down here, you'll see the Gorilla, pretty similar, nothing like, no big advantages here. Everything is very similar in power there, so he doesn't have any big advantages. And then same thing with the tech, pretty similar with the tech. He does have the guy on the right here, not Gary the Sheep. The guy on the right here does have better aircraft mastery. That's 38%. That's a pretty big difference in aircraft mastery. If you have 38% and all things are equal, you should be dominating the other team. So it is very interesting that he's at 38% and he struggled as much as he did. Going down below that, you do have the decorations, a little bit of advantage to Gary. And then the tactics cards. This is the other thing you have to pay attention to. If you're attacking and you're defending in any kind of PvP situation, you want to make sure you have the new tactic card set up right. This guy, he only has the legendary one in the middle there, the core cards. He has a PvE tactic card. And then at the top, it only looks like he has a couple PvP cards. I don't know where the fourth ones are yet. I don't know why he hadn't equipped them yet, but he hadn't. So you just want to make sure you have your PvP stuff on here because that can make a pretty big difference as well. The bottom stuff, the resource cards at the four at the bottom here that Gary has, those don't affect PvP. In rare circumstances could they have any kind of effect. Because most of the abilities that you get from those, you get the 3 random stats or 2 random stats. Most of those are like resource gathering, resource protection, increased resource production. So not really anything that affects PvP. And then morale is about the same. And then going down to the Wall of Honor, you can see Gary the Sheep has a huge advantage in the Wall of Honor on the aircraft side. That's a good amount of HP, attack, defense, depending on which ones he has leveled up there. But you can see he just has a lot more work done in that group. And then going to the damage, you can see that Gary's D.Va up on the front there, she was doing a ton of the damage, and then Morrison in the back line was as well. And then when you flip it on the other side, the D.Va and the Skylar, they were leading the way for this guy. But the Carly and Lucius didn't really do much of the damage there, just because they weren't alive very long. So what happens when you have a front line with basically unfinished defensive gear? Well, let's take a look here. Opening it up, you got the heroes' attacks going off for the weapons. And then we start getting into the damage here. And that Lucius is cooked off rip here. Gone. He's out of the game. And then Carly, not too far behind. And this is something you should take note of here. If your heroes are going down before your gorilla does, that's an issue. I mean, your gorilla, I don't care how beefy it is, should not be alive for significantly longer than the rest of your front line. I mean, they were gone. I mean, there wasn't much left of them after the first 5 seconds. And then once the front line's gone, the back row is left to just eat all the damage, and they're not going to last very long either. And I know there may be questions about, well, was D.Va in the front line a big determining factor in this fight? And I'll tell you right now, no. It should not have happened that way. I don't care how strong that D.Va was. Gary doesn't have that big of an advantage in this fight to say, yes, his D.Va was absolutely carrying this team here. I think if he puts D.Va in the back row, it's going to end all the same, not any different in the outcome here, just by how fast the front line of this guy's team went down. All right, so now that we've gone over the fight and we've gone through everything else, let me break down for you real quick what this guy should do for his gear and what he should have done in the first place, how I would have done this gear differently to make this team better. First of all, I probably would have done something like Gary, aside from, the D.Va in the front row with the data chip and the armor piece and all that stuff. But I like what he has on the Carly there with the Mythic Radar, the Mythic Armor. I would have Lucius with Mythic Radar or Mythic Armor because he's providing those shields. So the longer he lasts, the more HP he has, the better those shields are in the fights. So if I was this guy on the right, what I would probably do is I would break down those Mythic data chips because they're just hurting him. There's no doubt about it. Having those Mythic data chips on those frontline heroes, they would be much better served as Mythic Radars and then eventually some Mythic armor pieces. Data chips are the last thing you want to upgrade, specifically to Mythic. And like I was saying, I would have done like a Mythic Radar on your D.Va and a Mythic Radar on your Skylar or that Morrison on the back, on the bottom here. And that's again why Morrison didn't do a ton of damage for this guy, because he just didn't have that much armor to survive after the rest of the team got melted. So he was a pretty soft target in the back there. Even if you're looking at this from a standpoint of, well, I only have 3 mythic pieces right now. I have 1 gun and I have 1 radar. I got 2 radars upgraded. And now I want to do a data chip. I would tell you no. I would rather do a 2nd or a 3rd gun, especially if you're on a aircraft team, versus giving my D.Va a mythic data chip. Well, then the question is, well, why don't you want to do a mythic data chip on your D.Va? Aren't you going to get so much more damage out of your D.Va? Isn't she going to be so much better for you? The answer is yes and not really. If you're talking about world boss damage and you're trying to maximize that, the data chip can help. But if you're trying to build another mythic railgun to a Puma cannon, I would rather do this instead, because you're getting the boost of hero attack, you're getting the crit rate increase, a whole 1% on crit rate, and the hero attack is a lot better on this than on the data chip. Plus, if you can get them to do counter damage, you're going to get a 10% increase to the counters that they do. And while even a mythic gun is not going to give you an astronomical increase in your damage, you're really going to notice, you're barely going to notice this. You're going to hit the world boss after upgrading this, and it's not going to be a huge difference. So I, again, don't recommend doing a bunch of railgun upgrades to cannons, because the potential is not as good as something like a radar would be. Because the radars, you're getting the HP, you're getting the boost to the hero defense, and then on top of that, you're getting all the damage reduction from the critical hit. So you're taking 30% less damage on a critical hit. That's a huge amount of damage reduction. And you compare that to the little bit of damage output that you're getting from a mythic gun. I would rather take this 9 times out of 10 over a 2nd mythic gun or a 3rd mythic gun. If you do not have any mythic prints on your frontline heroes, whether that's a mythic radar, a mythic armor piece, you need to do 1 or 2 of these before you start doing your 2nd and 3rd mythic gun. And that really comes down to, do you want to be better at world boss damage, or do you want to be better all around for the game? And even the guy on the right, I'm telling you right now, is not good at either of those. It's not built for world boss damage, and it's not built for PvP, because you don't have mythic radars in there, which are absolutely huge and critical for PvP fighting, along with the mythic armor pieces for the front line. And if you're worried about world boss damage, I would have 4 or 5 4-star guns instead of a 3-star and a 2-star. I would have a bunch of 4-star guns before I leveled up a mythic data chip and had 4 mythic data chips on a team. And that's really what this video is about. I'm just trying to explain to everybody how important gear is and why it is so critical to get it right early on, so you're not making these big mistakes and having to break down gear later on, because this stuff hurts you. I mean, this guy has everything else going right except for the gear, and it is absolutely killing him. And when you have a almost 2 million advantage on somebody, you should not be losing that by this amount even. If it was a really close fight and Gary got really lucky, that would be one thing. But the fact that this was an absolute blowout tells you that there's something else wrong. And then the fact that Gary did this to him not just once, but then twice, really highlights the problem. If you have questions, have concerns, you're looking for help, the Discord link is down below. There's tons of people on there. You can feel free to ask questions. People are usually able to chime in. If I am, I'll try to chime in as well. We try to do account reviews every Tuesday and Thursday on there. But as always, thanks again for watching, everybody, and I hope to catch you guys in the next one.